Graduation day is supposed to be about celebration and recognition, but mine revealed the harsh truth about my family. While my brother Ethan received a brand new Toyota Camry with my father beaming, I got a stack of cleaning supplies with a reminder to help more around the house. Despite my 4 gigapascals and scholarships, the message was clear: I would never measure up in their eyes. That night, looking at my brother's smug expression, I made a decision that would change everything. I packed my bags and walked away. Before I dive into my story, where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe to hear how I discovered my worth after escaping my toxic family. Trust me, what happened next changed my life forever. Growing up in suburban Pennsylvania, in what looked like a typical middle-class American family, I always felt like an outsider in my own home. My name is Lyle, and at 18 years old, I had just graduated high school with honors. My father, James, owned a successful local construction company, and my mother, Diana, was a housewife who managed our home with precision but little warmth. Then there was my older brother, Ethan, 21, and the undisputed golden child of the family. The pattern of favoritism was established early in our childhood. I can still remember my 8th birthday party, a simple backyard gathering with store-bought cake and a handful of friends. Just 2 months earlier, Ethan had celebrated his 11th birthday with a rented bounce house professional catering and what seemed like half the neighborhood in attendance. When I asked my mother why my party was so much smaller, she patted my head dismissively. "We have to save money somewhere, Lyle. Besides, you do not need all that fuss." Christmas mornings told the same story year after year. Ethan would unwrap the latest gaming console or expensive sports equipment, while I received practical items like winter clothes or school supplies. One particular Christmas stands out in my memory. I was 12 and had been hoping for a specific art set I had circled in catalogs for months. Instead, I received a scientific calculator and a pack of underwear, while Ethan got the newest iPhone and a mountain bike. "You will need this calculator for algebra next year," my father explained, barely looking at me before turning to watch Ethan test out his new bike in the driveway. Sports offered no refuge from the inequality. My father attended every single one of Ethan's football games, cheering loudly from the stands and taking the team out for pizza afterward when they won. Meanwhile, despite earning a spot on the swim team and qualifying for state competitions, my father made it to exactly 2 of my meets over 4 years. My mother occasionally showed up, but spent most of her time chatting with other parents rather than watching me compete. "Your father is just very busy with work," she would explain when I expressed my disappointment. "And swimming is not exactly exciting to watch, is it?" Despite the constant lack of recognition, I threw myself into academics. While Ethan scraped by with C's and occasional B's, I maintained a perfect 4 gigapascals throughout high school. I joined debate club and won regional competitions. I volunteered at the local animal shelter and tutored younger students. By senior year, I had secured multiple scholarship offers to prestigious universities. None of it seemed to matter. At dinner, conversation revolved around Ethan's mediocre college experiences, his parties, his friends, and his average academic performance. My achievements were acknowledged with quick nods before the topic returned to my brother. I learned to stop sharing my successes altogether, tucking away certificates and award letters in a box under my bed, rather than face the indifference of my parents. Still, some part of me held on to hope. High school graduation was a significant milestone, and I thought, perhaps naively, that my parents might finally see my worth. I had been accepted to Cornell University with a substantial scholarship, finishing as valedictorian of my class. Surely this would be enough to earn their pride, their recognition that I, too, was worthy of celebration. The morning of graduation dawned bright and clear. I came downstairs to find my family at the breakfast table, my mother preparing pancakes while my father read the newspaper. Ethan was home for the summer, after completing his college degree, with decidedly average grades from a state university. "Big day, huh?" my father said, looking up briefly. For a moment, I thought he was talking to me, but his eyes were fixed on Ethan. "Your little brother following in your footsteps today." "Yeah, high school is finally over for the kid," Ethan said, ruffling my hair as if I were still 10 years old. "Now the real world starts." I swallowed my disappointment and focused on the day ahead. The graduation ceremony itself went well. When they called my name as valedictorian, announcing my scholarship to Cornell, There was enthusiastic applause from the audience. I scanned the crowd and spotted my parents. My mother was clapping politely while my father checked his watch. Neither of them looked particularly impressed. After the ceremony, several of my teachers approached to congratulate me, shaking my hand and telling me how proud they were of my accomplishments. "Your parents must be over the moon," my calculus teacher said, smiling warmly. I nodded and forced a smile, not wanting to admit the truth. When we gathered for photos, my mother fussed over my gown, straightening it repeatedly. "Stand up straight, Lyle, and try to smile naturally for once." My father checked his phone throughout the photo session. "Can we wrap this up? I've got a surprise waiting at home." The drive back was filled with Ethan regaling my parents with stories from his final semester of college. No one asked about my speech or my feelings about the day. I stared out the window watching my childhood town roll by, trying to suppress the growing knot in my stomach. I had a suspicion about what was waiting at home, and I dreaded being right. When we pulled into the driveway, my heart sank. There, gleaming in the afternoon sun, sat a brand new Toyota Camry with an enormous red bow on the hood. My father's face broke into a wide grin as he watched Ethan register what he was seeing. "No way," Ethan breathed, jumping out of our family car before it had fully stopped. "Is this for real?" My father emerged from the driver's seat, pulling a set of keys from his pocket with flourish. "You have earned this, son," he declared, his voice thick with emotion. 4 years of college complete. You are a college graduate now. You are going to do great things." My mother wiped tears from her eyes as she watched the scene unfold. "We are so proud of you, Ethan. This is just the beginning for you." I stood silently by the family car watching as Ethan circled his new vehicle with unbridled excitement. The car probably cost more than my entire scholarship. My brother had graduated with a 2.7 gigapascals in communications after 5 years instead of 4, having failed several classes that required him to repeat semesters. His college had been fully paid for by my parents while I had worked tirelessly for my scholarships. "Come on inside," my mother finally said, noticing me standing alone. "We have something for you too, Lyle." Hope flickered briefly in my chest. Perhaps they had planned something meaningful for me as well. Maybe the car was just because Ethan was older, and I would get something appropriate for my age and accomplishments. In the living room, a medium-sized box wrapped in simple blue paper sat on the coffee table. Next to it was a cake that read, "Congratulations, graduates," with both our names. At least I had made it onto the cake. "Open it," my mother urged, her tone overly enthusiastic in a way that immediately made me suspicious. I carefully unwrapped the package while my family watched. Ethan was still playing with his car keys, jingling them constantly as if to remind everyone of his gift. The box revealed an assortment of cleaning supplies: window cleaner, bathroom disinfectant, furniture polish, a new mop, rubber gloves, and a stack of microfiber cloths. I stared at the contents, unable to mask my confusion and hurt. My mother mistook my silence for gratitude. "I know how much you like things to be organized," she explained, as if this justified the gift. "And now that you will be home for the summer before college, it is time you help more around the house. I have made a cleaning schedule for you already." My father barely glanced at my gift. "Good practical stuff there. Ethan, why do not you take us for a spin in your new car?" From the corner of my eye, I caught Ethan's smirk. He made no attempt to hide his amusement at my gift compared to his. "Maybe Lyle can detail my car with all those supplies," he suggested with a laugh that my parents joined. I forced a smile and thanked them for the gift, though the words tasted bitter in my mouth. The rest of the afternoon was dedicated to Ethan's car. My father and brother spent hours discussing its features while my mother prepared a special dinner to celebrate. My valedictorian status and scholarship were mentioned once briefly before conversation returned to Ethan's plans for using his new car. During dinner, I sat quietly as Ethan dominated the conversation, boasting about job interviews at companies where my father had connections. My mother served him the largest portion of everything and repeatedly asked if he wanted seconds. When I reached for more potatoes, she frowned. "Watching your weight might be a good idea before college, Lyle," she said, pulling the bowl slightly away from my reach. After dinner, I excused myself to my room, claiming fatigue from the emotional day. No one protested my absence. Upstairs, I sat on my bed and stared at the wall covered with academic achievement certificates that no one in my family had ever really looked at. The sound of laughter floated up from downstairs where my parents and brother continued their celebration without me. Something shifted inside me in that moment. I realized with startling clarity that nothing I ever did would be enough for my parents. No achievement, no success would ever put me on equal footing with my brother. The favoritism was not something I could overcome with hard work or accomplishment. It was simply how our family was structured, and it would never change unless I changed my response to it. I pulled out my phone and texted my friend Jake, who had graduated alongside me that day. "Can I crash at your place for a while?" I wrote. "Family situation bad. Need to get out." His response came quickly. "Door's always open for you, man. Everything okay will explain when I see you," I replied. Thanks. That night I made my decision. I would not spend the summer being my family's maid while watching Ethan receive endless praise for minimal effort. I would not endure another day of being treated as less than in my own home. With newfound resolve, I began to pack. I woke before dawn the next morning, having barely slept. With quiet efficiency, I packed 2 duffel bags with essential clothing, my laptop, and important documents. I had been preparing for college anyway, so my mother had already helped me gather my birth certificate, social security card, and other vital papers months ago. This unexpected head start on independence was perhaps the only favor she had inadvertently done for me. As I packed, I came across mementos from my childhood swimming medals, academic awards, art projects I had been particularly proud of. Each represented a moment when I had hoped for recognition that never truly came. After a moment's hesitation, I left most of them behind. They belonged to a life I was leaving. I did take a few photographs, mostly of friends and places that held good memories. None included my family. I also took the box of saved money from under my bed, nearly $4,000 from years of part-time jobs, birthday money I had never spent, and careful saving. I had intended this money to cover expenses at college that my scholarship would not, but now it would fund my escape. Before leaving, I wrote a brief note on a piece of notebook paper: "I need some time away. I have a safe place to stay. Do not worry about me, but please do not try to find me right now. I will be in touch when I am ready." Lyle, I placed the note on my neatly made bed, took one last look at the room that had been mine for 18 years, and quietly made my way downstairs in the pre-dawn darkness. The house was silent except for my father's distant snoring. On the kitchen counter sat the cleaning supplies I had been gifted, still in their box. I left them there, untouched. Stepping outside into the cool morning air, I felt a strange mixture of terror and exhilaration. The street was empty, the houses dark. Across the driveway, Ethan's new car gleamed under the streetlight. I turned away from it and began walking toward the bus stop. 6 blocks away, my duffel bags heavy, but my chest somehow lighter with each step. The city bus took me across town to Jake's apartment near the community college. He was waiting for me outside, concern evident on his face. Jake had been my friend since elementary school and was one of the few people who understood my family situation. "Dude, you look rough," he said, taking one of my bags. "What happened?" Inside his small apartment, I told him everything about graduation day, the car, the cleaning supplies, and years of being the less favored son. Jake listened without interruption, occasionally shaking his head in disbelief. "You can stay here as long as you need," he said when I finished. "My roommate moved out last week, so the second bedroom is empty anyway." The next few days passed in a blur of activity. I turned off my phone after the first day when it began ringing constantly with calls from my parents. I used Jake's laptop to check my email and set up a new phone number. I applied for jobs in the area, leveraging my perfect academic record and the fact that I had worked steadily through high school at various part-time positions. By the end of the first week, I had secured a full-time position at a local bookstore for the summer and found a small studio apartment I could afford with my savings covering the security deposit and first month's rent. It was tiny and in a less desirable part of town, but it was mine. I signed the lease with a sense of accomplishment that surpassed any feeling I had ever had from earning academic honors. Jake helped me move my few belongings into the studio and gifted me some basic housewares he had duplicates of. "This is temporary, right?" he asked as we set up my new space. "You will still go to Cornell in the fall." "Absolutely," I assured him. "This is just about getting through the summer on my terms and showing my family I will not accept being treated like a second-class citizen anymore." By the 10th day of my absence, my parents had progressed from angry voicemails to increasingly panicked texts. My mother's messages became tearful pleas. Please, just let us know you are safe. We are worried sick. My father's were more demanding. This childish behavior needs to stop now. Come home immediately. I finally sent a brief text from my new number. I am safe and well. Need space. Will contact you when ready. Their relief at hearing from me quickly turned to renewed demands for my return. I maintained my silence, focusing instead on establishing my new independent life. The bookstore job was pleasant, my coworkers friendly and respectful of my knowledge and work ethic. My tiny apartment began to feel like home. For the first time in my life, I answered to no one but myself. 3 weeks after I left home, my parents tracked me down. I never discovered exactly how they found me, but I suspect they hired someone to find my new phone number and trace it. I was shelving books at work when I looked up to see them standing in the store looking simultaneously relieved, angry, and somehow smaller than I remembered. Your shift ends in 20 minutes, my father said without greeting. We will wait outside. I nodded, surprisingly calm, and returned to my task. Through the store window, I could see them waiting by their car, my mother pacing nervously, while my father stood with arms crossed. There was no sign of Ethan. When I emerged from the store, my mother rushed toward me with outstretched arms. I stepped back, maintaining distance. Her face crumpled in hurt confusion. We have been worried sick, she said, voice trembling. How could you just disappear like that? I left a note, I replied evenly. And I texted to let you know I was safe. This is ridiculous, my father cut in. Get in the car. We are going home to sort this out. I shook my head. I am not going anywhere with you. I have my own place now. If you want to talk, we can go to the cafe across the street. They exchanged glances, clearly surprised by my calm assertion. After a moment, my father nodded stiffly, and we walked silently to the cafe. Once seated with coffees in front of us, the confrontation began in earnest. What is this rebellion all about? My father demanded. You had everything you needed at home. College paid for food, shelter. And you run away over what some cleaning supplies. The old Lyle would have shrunk under his intimidating tone. The new Lyle did not flinch. It was never about the cleaning supplies, I said quietly. Though the contrast between my graduation gift and Ethan's was certainly telling. It is about 18 years of being treated as less valuable, less worthy of attention and celebration than my brother. That is absurd, my father protested. We have always treated you both equally. I laughed without humor. Equal? When have you ever attended my academic competitions, my swim meets? When have you ever celebrated my achievements, with even a fraction of the enthusiasm you show for Ethan's mediocrity? My mother reached across the table toward me but stopped short of touching my hand when she saw my expression. We are proud of you, Lyle. You have always been so independent, so capable. We did not think you needed the same kind of support and recognition that Ethan does. So I was punished for being competent, for not causing problems, for achieving on my own. I asked the unfairness of it, making my voice shake slightly. I worked twice as hard for half the recognition. Do you have any idea what that does to a child, to a teenager? My father's face reddened with anger, but I could see uncertainty in his eyes. You have always been so sensitive, making mountains out of molehills. A car versus cleaning supplies is not a molehill, Dad, I replied. It is a clear message about who matters in our family. For the first time, my mother looked truly distressed, not just at my absence, but at my words. We never meant to make you feel less important, she whispered. Intention does not change impact, I said, softening my tone slightly. I have spent my entire life feeling invisible in my own home. I will not do it anymore. So what now? My father asked, his bluster fading into confusion. You just cut us off because you are jealous of your brother's car. I shook my head. I am not cutting you off. I am establishing boundaries. I have my own place now. I will go to Cornell as planned in the fall. I am willing to have a relationship with you both, but only if it is based on mutual respect. I will not be treated as less than anymore. My mother was openly crying now. Please come home just until college. We can work on things, make changes. I am not coming home, I said firmly, but I am willing to stay in contact and work on our relationship from a distance. That is the best I can offer right now. My father looked stunned, unused to me standing firm against his wishes. After a long silence, he asked, "Do you need money?" It was so characteristic of him to think problems could be solved with financial solutions. "No," I replied. "I have a job, an apartment, and my scholarship. I am taking care of myself now." We parted that day with a fragile truce. I agreed to Sunday dinners twice a month and regular phone calls. They reluctantly accepted my independence, though I could tell. My father especially saw it as a phase I would outgrow when faced with the realities of self-support. What followed was a summer of transformation. My small apartment became a sanctuary of peace. My job at the bookstore introduced me to friends who appreciated me for who I was, not where I fell in a family hierarchy. I read voraciously, saved money, and prepared for college. The bi-weekly family dinners were awkward at first. Ethan attended the first one, clearly expecting me to have been humbled by my time away. When he realized I was thriving, he became sullen and made excuses to miss subsequent gatherings. My father struggled to relate to me as an adult with my own life, rather than as a child under his authority. My mother made more genuine efforts, asking questions about my job and apartment, though she frequently slipped into criticizing my independent choices. Gradually, small changes emerged. My father mentioned a news article related to my upcoming field of study, showing he had at least registered what I would be majoring in at Cornell. My mother brought photos of my academic awards to show a cousin who was visiting, a first acknowledgement of pride in my achievements. They were baby steps, but significant ones. By August, as I prepared for my move to Cornell, there was a new dynamic in our family. Not healed, not perfect, but evolving. My parents had visited my small apartment, and while my mother had fussed about its size and location, my father had commented gruffly that I had set it up efficiently. From him, this bordered on high praise. Ethan and I had one private conversation at a family dinner in late summer. He caught me alone in the kitchen and awkwardly cleared his throat. "So Cornell, huh? Pretty impressive." I nodded, waiting for the usual backhanded compliment or dismissal. Instead, he said, "I should have stood up for you more, with Mom and Dad. I knew they treated us differently." I was so surprised that I momentarily lost my words. Finally, I managed, "Why did not you?" He shrugged, looking genuinely uncomfortable. "It was easier not to, and I guess I liked being the favorite." After a pause, he added, "That was pretty brave what you did, moving out, standing up to them." It was not quite an apology, but it was something, a recognition that had never existed between us before. We would never be close, Ethan and I, but perhaps we could build something better than the competitive relationship fostered by our parents' favoritism. 1 year later, I returned home for Thanksgiving break from Cornell. My freshman year had been transformative in ways I could never have imagined. I had excelled academically, made true friends who valued me for myself, and even begun a relationship with someone who saw and appreciated all of me. The house looked the same, but everything else had changed. My mother greeted me with a genuine hug, not the perfunctory one I had grown up with. My father actually put down his phone when I arrived, giving me his full attention as I shared stories from university. "We have saved your favorite spot at the table," my mother said, leading me to the dining room where Thanksgiving dinner was laid out. To my surprise, she had placed a small trophy beside my plate, a swimming medal from high school I had left behind. "I found this while cleaning. You should have it." My father cleared his throat awkwardly. "Your professor emailed us about your research project, said it was exceptional work." I blinked in surprise. "You contacted my professors," he looked slightly embarrassed. "I wanted to know how you were really doing, not just what you tell us on the phone." In the past, this would have felt like an invasion, a lack of trust. Now I recognized it as his clumsy attempt to engage with my life. He had never contacted any of Ethan's professors. Ethan arrived late as usual, but with a different energy about him. He had finally found a job he enjoyed, working for a marketing firm where his sociability was an asset rather than his connections. He greeted me with a genuine smile and asked thoughtful questions about my studies. As we ate dinner, I realized that my leaving had forced a reset in our family system. By refusing to play my assigned role, I had created space for everyone to relate differently. My parents still struggled, sometimes falling into old patterns of favoring Ethan or dismissing my achievements, but they caught themselves more often than not making visible efforts to change. The greatest change, however, was within me. I no longer measured my worth by their recognition. I had built a life where I was valued and respected for exactly who I was. The ache of parental favoritism had not disappeared entirely, but it had diminished to a dull memory rather than an active wound. After dinner, my father asked me to join him in the backyard. We stood in the crisp November air, an awkward silence between us until he finally spoke. "I was wrong," he said simply. "The way we treated you compared to your brother. I did not see it then, but I see it now." I nodded, accepting his words without rushing to ease his discomfort. "You know, I always thought Ethan needed more support because he struggled more," he continued. "But I realize now that I was robbing you of something important by not celebrating your successes the same way." "Yes, you were," I agreed quietly. He looked at me with new respect in his eyes. "You are going to do great things, Lyle. You already are. And I am sorry it took you leaving for me to see that. It was not a perfect reconciliation. One conversation could not erase years of hurt. But it was a beginning, an acknowledgement that laid the groundwork for a healthier relationship." That night, in my old bedroom that now felt like a guest room, I reflected on the journey of the past year. By refusing to accept the role of invisible second son, I had not only changed my own life, but had inadvertently offered my entire family a chance to grow. My parents were learning slowly and imperfectly to see and value both their sons. My brother was finding his own path without the crutch of perpetual favoritism, and I was building a life based on my own worth, not on others' validation. The lesson I had learned was profound. Sometimes walking away is not an act of abandonment, but an act of self-preservation and even love. By refusing to participate in a damaging dynamic, I had created the possibility for something healthier to emerge. True family bonds, I now understood, were not about proximity or obligation, but about mutual respect and genuine care. Those could not be demanded or manipulated into existence. They had to be built through honest boundaries and open communication. The road ahead with my family would not be smooth. Old habits die hard, and there would be missteps on all sides. But for the first time, I felt hopeful that we might eventually find our way to a relationship where I was not the afterthought, the less favored son, but a valued and equal member of the family. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? How did it change your relationship? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about finding your worth and building healthier relationships. Remember, sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away from what hurts you, even when it comes wrapped in the package of family love. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to stand up for your worth in all your relationships.